Hi, Peter Boolkah here, and welcome to today's edition of the Transition Guide. Now today I'm in Essex. I'm actually at the group of Dunmow Waste, Reacton and Fireward with directors Sam Malins and Ed Barnes. Thank you for having me here today.
Thanks for coming.
Now, the reason I really was looking forward to interviewing is most people try to get out there and they try to do the interviews with people when they're at the end of the journey. Let me interview this person that's got the helicopter, etc. And this is how this person's done it. But the reality is most people don't relate to that. Most people want to understand the journey. And you're currently both going through that journey. Now just to give a little bit of background. When you first went into business, you went into the family business, didn't you?
Yep, 2004.
Why did you end up joining the family business originally?
What, joining them with a business partner or joining
just
them?
with you at first.
It's a good story. So when I left school, I always wanted to make it for myself. Like, it was something in my head. At the time, I didn't want to join a family business. I just had it in my head that I wanted to go into business for myself. So I got a couple of jobs, and then I did actually go into family business for a few months when I was 17. And I think that's really when it sort of hit home that I wanted to go and do it for myself. And then I went and sold cars for a few years and sort of learnt the fact that I had the gift of the gab and could engage with the customers really well. And we moved. I worked with a friend at the time, and we moved a lot of cars. And then these was sort of, for me, life was about learning from your mistakes as quickly as you can. And I was looking at Carl, who my friend was working with and I was thinking, well, if you can do it, then I must be able to do it. Mm. So I had my dad actually helped me back then, got me an overdraft. I went and bought some cars. My first lesson I learnt was it's all very well being able to sell, but if you don't have the supply chain, that's a really big fall down. So obviously I then split away from Carl from working with him, and I went into renting a few spaces and trading cars. And my first mistake was kind of going to his suppliers, and he kind of went, "Oh, you can't do that. Like they're my suppliers." I was like, "Oh yeah, didn't think of that." So that was a massive lesson. And then suddenly I'm going to suppliers, so I'm paying more money, and I couldn't get the right cars in. So then I went and sold. I was buying Land Rovers from around the country. Didn't quite realise how much money I was spending on trying to go and getting them and sourcing them, and then the margins were so small. I was actually earning a lot less than I was when I was working for someone.
You know what the interesting thing is though, but that's a lot of people actually do fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Where they don't quite know the numbers, because most people are not normally numbers driven anyway. So they work hard, etc., not knowing true costs, and think that by working really hard that they're going to get to where they need to be, but actually working really hard doesn't always get you where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were earning less money.
A lot less money, to the point that after about a year and a half I had no money. Well, no money. I was banging on the limit of the overdraft that my dad had arranged for me, and I had no cars. So then at the time the waste side needed investment, and we had a family conversation. It was either, look, we're going to wind it down, or do you want to take it over? And I decided to give it a go. And I was at that point. I'd learnt enough to know that going on your own is not easy. So I've got a big respect for people that do that. So, but then obviously I did have this small little business. I think the waste company turned over about 850 or 900,000 at the time, about 8 or 10 people when I took it over, and I was really infused and really buzzing to get going. And I was fortunate because I was so enthusiastic. We got a new bit of plant in, and then the Broomfield Hospital project came up. So I think when we went in for the tender, you had a couple of companies that were tendering, and then me, and these guys, it was just their normal day job, but I was in there really enthusiastic and really wanted to win it. So we won that, and that was my first big break, really. So
that's interesting, because very much on the back of enthusiasm, you can heck of a lot.
Absolutely.
I think the challenge you've got is a lot of people over the years, they lose that enthusiasm. You know what it's like when business bears you down, it wears you down.
Yeah.
You kind of lose what makes you great in the first place.
Yeah.
So at what point did you decide that you needed to bring Ed on board?
I think with anything, it's relationships. I think that's really, and I think when we first met, we were in business. We met through business coaching, so we were the business coach in Bishop Stortford, and we were going to 90-day planning. It was called at the time. So we were going to 90-day planning, and it was we'd met a couple of times, and then I just remember we went to a couple, and in a lot of the planning, you get into the planning meeting, and everyone said that they were going to do, no one did it, or hardly any people did it. But Ed and we were cracking on, and we were getting stuff done. So naturally, we gravitated together, and we were working together, and quite quickly, I was going to say we were helping each other, but actually Ed was helping me most of the time. So it was we just hit it off very, very quickly, and I think we both really enjoyed each other's kind of drive.
Because that's quite interesting. So really, you complemented one another, right?
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting because most of the times, partnerships tend not to work because there's not that gel in there.
Yeah.
But you're actually quite unique, where you've got a very specific skill set, you've got a very specific skill set, and actually, you work well together.
Yeah, because I couldn't work with two me's.
Well, you couldn't, no, definitely not. Definitely not.
It just wouldn't go. It just wouldn't work. So that is why we work so well together.
And by working together, what did that enable you to do in the business?
Do you know?
I think it's the same. It was what enables us to do exactly what we're doing now. It was able to, whichever way, I always think that whenever you're dealing with a decision, you need to have as many viewpoints as you can. And one of the things that we've certainly learned, more so probably I'd say in the last 2-3 years, is understanding risk and looking forward more than 6 months or 3 months, or just being quite short-sighted. And when we first met, we were sort of like gun-ho, let's go and do this sort of stuff, and you don't tend to worry about the structure that sits behind it. You don't tend to worry about the what ifs. When you're younger, I mean, when we were younger, we always got told, well, you will worry about it when you get older, and you think you just go off and do whatever you want, and then you won't think, and then you wake up now in the morning and you go, we need to think about that. That's a big risk. It wasn't 10 years ago.
No, it wasn't.
And that's where sort of the why the sort of partnership works, and the skills are different. And I think for me, it's, as we've grown, we've always put systems in place. We've always changed the way we operate, and we try to be the best at the size that we were. So when you're smaller, there is a handful of things you can do. When you're turning over £1 million, there's a whole host of people also turning over £1 million. And what scales your business up from that million to 2 million, or for some people it might be 1.5, depending on what industry they're in. And for us, we quickly realised, working together, that for the waste side, there was a few retaining structural things that meant it couldn't scale. There's plenty of waste being generated in the world, especially in the area we're in, especially Chelmsford, that's growing as fast as it is. And so we realised that, for me, it was right, let's have a plan for the business. And I think that's where we originally started talking about, and that's originally the first project we worked on. Actually, the first project we worked on was painting the new office, when it was decided that we'd move it from the first location to actually at the yard, because we realised that you had people in the office sort of dictating how the company runs. They'd never seen a yard. They didn't know what was going on in the yard. It was almost that, we'll feed you work and you just get on with it.
And that was one of the first things. I remember Ed came in and it was like, right, so how do you work? Well, the yard's here, and the sales, the couple of you had the accounts lady effectively at the home at the farm, and then the sales lady there. And I remember you just went, this just doesn't work. I was like, well, no, it doesn't. At the time we were sending faxes from the office to the yard with the daily sheets, and Ed just went, well, this just doesn't work. They just can't communicate, and then we said, well, okay, well, what should we do about it? Well, let's buy some porta cabins and let's get the office up there. And like literally within 3 weeks, it was done.
Yeah.
So that's when we knew we could move. If we set our mind, if either of us set our mind to something, especially if both of us did, it was just done. It was like we didn't procrastinate. It was like think of something to do, figure out how we're going to do it, done.
Yeah. And from that, you grew the business. You then went and bought multiple businesses.
Yep.
Yeah.
We started a business because there was a third partner of ours sort of come to me with an idea, sort of down the pub, and I'd always saw myself as sort of an entrepreneur, but obviously you're not really an entrepreneur if you have one business. You're a business owner. So we basically come up with the idea. I said to Jamie, look, I've got a perfect person who can be the third, who can be the technical drive, because Ed's understanding of things really does go down to levels that not many people's do. So we can really, between the three of us, we can really drive this. And so we started Fireward in 2010. But we didn't employ our first person until 2013. So for 2 or 3 years we were testing and playing about with it. So that was when we started. And then in 2016 we brought the competitor to the manufacturer that we were using. So 3 very different businesses.
And what do you reckon your biggest challenge during that period was?
People.
I was going to say, what do you think we were going to say?
Well, you already knew. That's a rhetorical question because you already knew the answer. But
But
people.
you said something earlier on that you need people for the level that you were as a business. And I think one of the big challenges happens to be that as a business starts to scale, not everyone can keep up.
Yeah.
No.
And I think because you were scaling at such a pace over that period of time, you were far outgrowing the people around you.
Yeah, definitely. And in some cases on a weekly basis.
And they weren't, and probably where you were so enthusiastic about your journey, I don't necessarily think they were as enthusiastic as you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big challenges with scale ups, is it's a highly dynamic environment. And I don't think everybody wants to be in that. Some people just like things to be slow.
Yeah.
And you were anything but slow. And what else do you think you learned along the way? I mean, when we talk about people, you had your people you had your current team. What else did you need to learn about your teams? You're talking about people being the challenge. What else did you find that you had to learn?
I think it's structure.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, you're right, we found the people the challenge, but actually we were the problem in a long way. So we had this desire to scale so quickly, but we weren't willing to put the time into the structure so we could scale. And then there's issues with scaling, i.e. you want amazing people, but sometimes you can't afford it. Like, do you want to bring someone in for 100 grand? You're turning over 1.5 million. You can't afford to do that. It's like 2 or 3 people's wages.
Well, the other thing is sometimes when you haven't quite learned how to do that, you do bring on that person for 100 grand, and they end up being a bag of shit.
Yeah.
That's the other danger.
And we've been there and done that.
And what you can't forget is that I think one of the biggest mistakes we've made around the people and structure part is we know what works for our recipe. Yeah, and Gordon Ramsay's got a different recipe to Jamie Oliver, and we have a different recipe in business to other people. It doesn't mean that you share parts of your recipe in the same way you use, they both use onions in a recipe, but how it works is unique to you in your business. And I think where we've brought people in previously, what we've asked them to do is to be the chef, to come in and put the recipes in and put the structure in. And in essence that, if you actually look back at the people we brought in to do that, they had no demonstrative, they had no demonstration of ever being able to do that. They've gone into a much bigger PLC or a bigger corporate or a worldwide business where there is an established structure that was built off the founder's recipe book.
Yep.
So for us, it's a case of the structure that we have now enables us to still keep our original recipe, but support the growth of that. So people don't deviate away from our values. People don't deviate away from the way that we treat customers, for example. You know, that's a big part of what we do. And it still, to this day, becomes a challenge pushing that to every area of the business. We will do whatever it takes to keep a customer a customer. And yet you still are blue in the face telling people that's not the behaviour that we expect when dealing with customers. So I think that's a massive part of it. And I think for me personally, another area of scaling the businesses that now we look at is how I don't think businesses, and we're included in this, have kept up at the pace that technology has moved at. You know, and that's the way you run your business. That's the way that, you know, for example, one of the things we've done recently is literally banned anything external from a marketing perspective. So that's websites. So we've been in the procrastination position with websites for the past year and a half, where we got our fingers burnt with an advertising agency that we trusted. And that relationship, as it's fizzled out, has proven to see what they think of their customers. So, you know, for us, I don't want someone coming in and selling me a website and they come in and they show me a pretty brochure and then they charge me £1,000 a month to make a change to it.
And 15 grand for the website.
And 15 grand for the website.
Yeah.
Actually, they don't give a toss about. They don't care about that. They'll tell you that they care. They tell you that they're best at SEO. And the reality is now in the world of technology, you don't need an SEO expert. Yeah. If you've got someone who, and I believe this is a massive part for what we've done, is learning. Yeah. It's the reason we go to business coaching. It's the reason that we train staff. It's the way we change our behaviour is through learning. And if you learn and you have a company that's willing to look at the modern way of doing things, I don't think anyone would outsource their web design. There's plenty of young, talented people coming through our business who far outskill our ability to use an iPad or a PC or a Mac, and they can design your website. And there's tools out there to tell you that the SEO for your website is right or wrong. You know, you don't need this. So that's an example of where we've almost paused our web presence and marketing and actually put a cap on the business because we weren't investing in a newer way of doing it. Because we hadn't spent time, which is something else we've been doing, out of the business going, right, let's just put the brakes on what we're doing and have a look at a fresh structure, what's needed in the business.
But do you think that was a transition phase?
Definitely.
Where actually the reality is you were caught in the doing, but you had no choice doing the doing because of the people and the resource around you. And it's only as you got better over time, you've been able to bring in that better level of support. And in all fairness, you've bought back your time, haven't you? Yeah. Through better people, etc.
We have,
which has allowed you to make those more strategic decisions, do that more strategic work. And you know what, 3 or 4 years ago, you just didn't have the bandwidth to do.
No. And we've gone through some, I mean, you can actually get quite emotional to think of some of the months or years we've been through over the last 3 or 4 years. And it's been, you know, you get to the point where you feel completely broken, and just as you feel like you've had enough of everything, you then make a breakthrough. And you know, and that's who you meet. That's you know, that's networking to get staff on board, to get, you know, you build the team by networking and getting great staff on board. And one of the things we did do in the last couple of years is we didn't stop, but we kind of pulled back from just advertising jobs and spent more time networking and asking people to ask people, and going out there and finding the people personally, not worrying quite so much about employing people that we knew, a bit more friendly, rather than just going, no, do you know what, we need fresh people, we need to not know them, we need to... And I think the hiring process for us has changed dramatically.
But you've learned how to do that now. And that's the big thing. And it's something that you said earlier that's quite interesting. That over the last 3 or 4 years, you've had some highs and lows. I mean, you came to the point where you had to literally put everything on the line to finance the business.
Yeah.
And that must have been quite scary.
Yeah, and because this is something that I think people external to business, and it can be partners, as in relationship partners. It can be other shareholders. It can be everything else. I think
Built friends,
built friends as well. Yeah, and it comes to a point where people think what they don't understand is the scale part. So what people think is, look, you've been really stressful and busy, and you know it's all been really stressful for this period of time, and you've got to this point now, and then you've got a group MD. So now it's like, well, you know, you should be on a beach in Jamaica chilling with a drink, you know, and there's no stress for you because you know there's someone taking care of that and that. The reality of it is the stress and the strain and the desire doesn't change.
No. It's just different. It's
new.
new.
Just different.
Yeah. It's new stress.
Yeah.
New stuff because it's a pathway that you've yet to tread.
Yeah, agreed.
You're now doing it, so it's all news for you. That's the thing with scaling up businesses; they're all news.
Yeah, and we've built this. It's our DNA to be stressed.
Yeah.
In a way, but it's nicer now. The way that we have got such a great structure underneath us. Yeah, I feel less stressed now. There's quite a number of things to be stressed about that are going on at the moment, but we fit the pressure, the day-to-day minutiae stress is not with us, so we get a bit more chance to look over the top.
But it's important for people to know that actually putting that structure in place has taken you over 5 years.
Years.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. A lot of people think straight away, no, we'll put the structure in. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And if you'd have asked me, you know, when we've been through some points, haven't we, some months where we look at each other and we'd be like, we're never going to get this right, ever. Like, literally, we're just flogging a dead horse. And it's just, I can't stress enough. I don't know, have you seen the picture where you've got it's like a cartoon guy with an axe, and he gets to a point and there's a diamond, and then there's one that he's nearly there and he's turned around. That resonates with me all the time.
3 feet from gold.
3 feet, and it's literally you can be at broken point, but just keep going, and the rewards are there, and that's happened to us literally so many times. Even to the point where we've just at the point where the business is really not in a good way, and then a contract just lands within a week.
But it's because you never gave up.
Yeah,
you kept going.
Yeah.
So I mean, people tuning in today, if you were to give entrepreneurs out there, they're on their journey, a piece of advice, what would your piece of advice be for them, Sam, and then Ed?
My piece of advice would be patience. I follow Gary Vaynerchuk quite closely. I enjoy quite a lot of what he puts out, and he said it, and it really resonated. It really hit home with me, and I think that's one of the reasons why we both work extremely well together, is because we've both got a lot of drive, but we've both got a lot of patience. And other than this morning, as you saw in the office, but patience is a virtue, they say, and I think that is for us. As you know, we started working together many years ago. If we weren't patient, we'd end up like how I see a lot of business owners, where they get to a certain point and then they're like, I can't do this anymore. And I think, you know, scaling's one thing and the drive is one thing, but patience, I think, is the biggest.
So patience is one. Thank you, Sam. What about you, Ed?
I'll go straight to the other spectrum. You're either going to go this way round or the other way round. For me, and it's something that is what I wouldn't. I think when I give the advice, I just wouldn't be able to get out of bed without it, and it is the relentless pursuit to be the best. Yeah. A relentless pursuit, and that doesn't mean being the best because, you know, your website looks nice. It doesn't mean being the best because you've won this contract over your competitor. The reality is, I think so many people forget that, you know, whilst you think you've made 2 steps forward in the business and you're really happy with your new website and it's better than your competitors, well, behind the scenes, they've just employed the next. So, you know, the next best salesperson, or they've won the next big contract, or they've won this. And that, for us, instilling that in a lot of the team here is, you know, you know, we're not finished, we're not done, we're not, you know, we're just because we've got this new shiny product or we've got this approval, we're not done. This is like, you know, this is training, and
we find this a lot with the sales
team.
Pursuit. Yeah, don't worry, we find this a lot with the sales team where they'll go and get a contract, and then it's like, Lovely.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where we're the same. Is we go and get a contract and it's right next. What's next?
But that's that level 5 ambition that Jim Collins often talks
Yeah.
about in Great by Choice. And interestingly enough, you take your people like your Jeff Bezoses out there, your Elon Musks, etc. They didn't get to where they are by not having that fanatical discipline and that absolute drive to be the very best.
Yeah.
And it isn't about the money; it's about being the best. The money then comes eventually.
It is. That's both. That's exactly
definitely.
right. Yeah.
So I mean, thanks for your time today. There's some really great nuggets out there. And for those of you that have tuned in today, what are your experiences in business? What are your thoughts and takeaway? I mean, please leave a comment below. Let us know what your thoughts are. And once again, thank you and congratulations, and keep on scaling up.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Pete.
Cheers, Pete.